Hi, Mr. Lemaster here. Let's start with the question. Use the marking tool to highlight the exemplification in paragraph 7. Before we go any further, we need to know what exemplification means. Exemplification is maybe a bigger word for examples. And you can kind of see that example in there, the example. I know that's not how it's spelled, but that's how I remember it, exemplification. So I remember it as examples. And that's what it is. We're looking for where the author lists examples. Typically, it's going to be more than a single sentence. It doesn't have to be, but usually when you're looking for exemplification or examples in a text, they're going to be multiple sentences. Then the question gives us where. So paragraph 7. So this is paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's really important to keep track of these paragraphs. 6, and then 7. So the answer is here somewhere. So let's take a look. There is so much injustice and suffering crying out for our attention. Right there, it's language that we say thank you as a reader because you're setting up the exemplification. A lot of times, writers will begin with some sort of signal or announce that there's going to be a list coming. And look, there is so much injustice and suffering. There's so much injustice and suffering crying out for our attention. And you say, okay, where, what are they? And watch. Victims of hunger, of racism and political persecution, writers and poets, prisoners in so many lands governed by the left and by the right. Human rights are being violated on every continent. More people are being oppressed than free. And then, too, there are the Palestinians to whose plight I am sensitive, but whose methods I deplore. Violence and terrorism. Oh, and he says, and violence and terrorism are not the answer. So that's where it stops. See, I caught myself because you can see where that all of the suffering and injustice has been named here. And so I'm going to lock that in. But let's continue and see. I'm going to mark that and let's see what he says. Violence and terrorism. That's another example because watch, he says, violence and terrorism are not the answer. So this is not another example. He's saying that a lot of the things that I've mentioned up here are violence and terrorism, and that's not the answer. Something must be done about their suffering, and soon. So here are the examples, also known as exemplification, and you want to mark all of them until it stops, and then you have the answer.